Colin, let's start with the clip, because now there is not potentially, there's going to be a bit of a U.S. convoy starting. I don't know if it's going to be as big as Canada, but it's supposedly coming to Washington, D.C. soon. So White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about it.
Real quick, is the president concerned at all about the convoy of truckers that's making its way to Washington, and has he taken any sort of steps to protect that?
Yes, we've actually been monitoring this closely. The Department of Homeland Security and the administration are tracking reports of a potential convoy that may be planning to travel to several U.S. cities, including Washington, D.C. We have been working, including from Dr. Liz Sherwood-Randall here, as well as our Homeland Security Department, closely with our federal, state, and local partners to continuously assess the threat environment and keep our communities safe. And our efforts include enhanced intelligence sharing, a critical incident response plan for the U.S. Capitol, a regional security assessment, and a simulation experiment that developed data-driven recommendations to bolster regional security. So we are closely monitoring, closely watching, and working with state and local authorities. Let me go ahead.
Okay, so that sounds mild, but in the words there are threat assessment. She's low-key talking about surveillance, this, that, or the other thing. So I want to address first the Canadian convoy. I'm pro-vaccine. Science changes. I think the CDC has been very shabby. I think Fauci has lied repeatedly. But as far as the vaccines, I mean, the data is the data. And for people that want to live in, tiny houses and claim there's a cabal and they're all lying, that's fine. Mandates, I think there's a fair debate on mandates and whether some of them are too strict. I personally believe during a public health crisis, certain regulations are needed and certain collectivist solutions where everybody does things for the greater good. But I also believe that once it's clear that, Omicron, for example, vaccinated people could spread as well. I understand why certain people say, well, then why should we have such rigid mandates? So I believe there could be a debate on mandates. The Canadian trucker convoy, to be clear, before I get to why I am worried about the freezing of bank accounts, prisons, the imposing of, threatening prison sentences for 10, 20 years, long, heavy fines. To be clear, contrary to what you hear on some other corners of YouTube, the Canadian trucker convoy was not popular in Canada. Let me repeat. It was not popular in Canada. I'm just spitting facts. You don't have to like it. In Canada, Colin, if we could put up the first poll, this is from Innovative Research Group. Support for the idea of the protest, 41%. 41% strongly opposed most recently. 16% strongly support. Okay? 41% strongly opposed, 16%, and the oppose kept going up from late January to early February. So that's 41% opposed, somewhat opposed is 12%. So you have majority opposed. Colin, the next poll, Freedom Convoy and Federal Politics. This is from the Ledger. 62% total oppose. That would be 47% strongly oppose, 15% somewhat oppose. Okay. I mean, I could read more polls. There's Canadians view the unvaccinated responsible for overwhelming the healthcare system, 48%. People who are holding Canadians back from having a normal life, 40%. So I say this, Steve, just to lay the groundwork that the majority of actual Canadians did not support these protests. Right. That doesn't mean people don't have a right to protest. A minority has a right to protest. But I'm just saying, because you hear on certain YouTube channels that this is the working class revolt and this is the face of the working class. No, the majority in Canada did not support it.
Right.
But where I have an issue, they started using the economy. As a reason that we need to freeze bank accounts of protesters. That we need to freeze bank accounts of protesters, that we need heavy prison sentences, heavy fines. Here's how much the Freedom Convoy has cost the U.S. and Canada. I'm just going to read down a little bit, Colin. The auto industry alone is facing losses as high as $988 million because of the blockades, given that there's an estimated 141 million worth of vehicles and auto parts flowing in and out daily. So the bridge that was blocked brings auto parts into Michigan and obviously Detroit, Flint, the home, the birthplace of the auto industry. And not as many auto plants, but still a lot, particularly in Detroit. So 988 million, they're saying it costs the auto industry. And then you go down further, costs for increased daily policing in Canada's capital have hit $800,000 a day. And auto officials tell Global News that the city has spent an additional $1 million in city services as a result of the protest. On average, the city spends about $620,000 a year. So that's $1 million in just these few weeks. So I bring all this up, Steve, because on one end, like the January 6th protesters, for example, I'm not talking about them. I don't think that's protected. I think there should be criminal penalties. I don't minimize it like Glenn Greenwald and others and pretend, oh no, this was I don't think it should be covered 24/7, but I do think these people should be convicted. Whether you're right or you're wrong, I think they were wrong. There was no Trump was lying. You don't have a right to storm the Capitol, try to hang people and this, that, or the other thing. But what I fear, and now that to me, what Jen Psaki said, even though it kind of was well spoken and nice PR talking points, well, do we really think Biden and the US government won't just copycat Canada if it got as bad here? Maybe it wouldn't be bridges that are blocked, but maybe it would be serious sectors of the economy, serious financial institutions that are blocked. Maybe if actually the environmental movement got well organized and was blockading certain roads for long periods of time so that oil pipelines could not, transportation trucks and supply trucks could not move forward. If we've talked about it many times, imagine in a wonderful world, we actually get some type of organized general strike. Well, can't they just say, this is damaging the economy? These protesters, these organizers who are economically protesting are economic terrorists, and use the playbook of freezing bank accounts, going after family members, imposing 10, 20-year prison sentences. I've been talking a lot. Am I dramatizing this? Because again, I'm not really for what the Canadian protesters were protesting. I'm for the vaccine. I think you could have a debate about the mandates. Honestly, the Canadian thing, it was very clear. I mean, defenders of it could have their head in their hand and claim not. There was some astroturfing going on in terms of right-wing groups hijacking it, big right-wing donors sending money. But I don't have to agree with it to see the ripple effects that this could have. This playbook could be replicated to crush populist, progressive economic boycotts, as well as environmental and others.
Jordan, I'm going to take us back to when Trump was first elected. During Occupy Inauguration and Disrupt J20, a lot of the protesters that were there were literally locked up. I mean, they were facing huge prison sentences. And now they got thrown out. It didn't go down that way. But that was the first sign that we had of really, truly clamping down. I don't know if you remember DC during the inauguration, but we were there covering it on the ground, and there was freaking tear gas everywhere. There was those flashbang grenades that literally blew like the pant leg off of one of the guys I was working with. We had tons of pepper spray. There were horses. There were people throwing bricks at people. I mean, it was like smashing windows, and you looked around. It was like the people that we were with, and we did set up the stinking.
I mean, there were some blocks. It felt like Fallujah. I was in DC during the inauguration. There were
it was scary. I'm not gonna lie. I was scared. I remember ducking and running with friends from like 11th and 12th Street and stuff like that. And then we covered Michael Moore and the rest of them over there at one of the grounds. But we came from Malcolm X Park. But the point of this was people were literally arrested for setting that up. I mean, there was people that were going to face lots and lots of time. It did get thrown out. But in that moment right there, I knew that protest in general was going to be targeted. Now, that was under the Trump administration, and everybody's talking fascism this and fascism that. And I don't disagree, but I think there's a whole lot of fascism going on in general, right? In general. But this trucker and the January 6th things, the thing that strikes me as super important to notice, as a lefty, as someone who wants a socialist revolution, even if it's not a violent one, even if it's an intellectual one, even if it's just a social revolution, a more of a movement revolution, a political revolution, like what Bernie said, whatever. It doesn't have to have guns. It doesn't have to be violent. Anything that creates change that is a mass movement could be a revolutionary force. When you use the tactics of unionization and direct action and things like that, and all of that is under attack, whether it be from the right wingers of these truckers or whether it be from a left wing version of the world, doesn't matter. The point is I'm with you. I do not agree with the right wing. I am a pro-vaccine guy. I'm even a pro-mandate guy to a degree, in the sense of we have a public crisis. We have to take collective action. I mean, smallpox, polio, all these things, you can't go to school if you're not vaccinated. You have to have a vaccine card. You go to your school, your kid signs up, they have to have all their vaccines done. All this hand-wringing is nonsense to me, but whatever, man. Hey, whatever it takes to get you out of bed in the morning, you get excited, right? But this right here is very terrifying, because what they're doing is they're using the tactics they use on other countries like Iran and other ones that are not towing the U.S. geopolitical line. And they start doing sanctions. They start cutting off their access to their own funds, so on and so forth. That is terrifying, because anytime the people, I mean, the Constitution says that if the government is no longer representing, is no longer righteous, that the people have a responsibility to replace that government. So if, for example, we did do that, just know that there are powers there that are going to fight you. They are going to do what they can. They're not going to just go, oh, well, I guess they want to change. Okay, let's go ahead and let them change. They are going to strategize. They're going to work, and they're going to shut it down. So in that sense, I am 100% in support of the trucker. But see, this wasn't done in the U.S. This is done in Canada. So I don't know Canadian law. I don't know U.S. law very well, much less Canadian law. Okay.
I could tell you the law doesn't. I could tell you the law doesn't matter. I was at Standing Rock, and laws were broken every single day.
Exactly. And that was where I was going, is that it doesn't really matter. It's selective. It's all on who's going to be there and what their agenda is. But the result of any kind of leftist, progressive direct action for Medicare, for environmental purposes, as you stated, like Extinction Rebellion or any of these other groups that get together and take action, it's perfectly conceivable that the exact same Gestapo-like tactics, these same very, very, very non-people-friendly tactics, painting and demonizing as these horrible terrorists. I think this right here is very dangerous. As much as I don't like them, and I don't like them, let me be crystal clear. I'm not even mincing words, folks. If you think I'm like, oh, I don't like them, period. That said, I support their right to protest, and I support the right for anyone to protest. And if that's inconvenient, like a union strike is inconvenient for people, I still support it anyway. So anyway, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make that point.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.